Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be reviewing Craig Button's recent NHL draft rankings and why I personally think that his draft rankings this time around are very weird. Now last season I made a video reacting to Craig Button's 2019 draft rankings, and when he released his 2020 draft rankings the other day, I knew I wanted to react to it to see where he had each prospect. But when it came to this mock draft, compared to last year, I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just very weird in what players he has going where and who he thinks are the top prospects in this draft. So, how does his draft rankings compare to my draft rankings right now? And who does he have in the top 15? And where does he have each prospect going in this draft? Watch till the end for all the rankings, both him and mine. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Now I'm gonna get the elephant out of the room before we get into the draft rankings. First and foremost, I still respect Craig Button. He is the head scout for TSN, so he is doing something right, I think. But in terms of the rankings for him and mine, we both have pretty different styles of scouting these prospects and seeing how well they're actually playing. With Craig Button, it's pretty obvious, and I don't think he's really hiding it, that he uses a lot of international tournaments to rate these prospects, where they should go, and how good they are. Meanwhile, for me, I like to use a lot more in-season, a lot more of their actual play. For instance, Alexis Lafreniere, I'll watch a lot more QMJHL games than I will with the World Juniors to rate on how good he actually is in those 60 games or so. Meanwhile, for Craig Button also, it seems to have a very big North American influence, while for me, I really like to value Swedish prospects and Russian prospects because a lot of those end up going underrated in the draft. So there is differences in the rankings, but I'm not saying his rankings are bad, just to me, they are very different. Now I have the top 100 rankings right now. We're gonna go through the weird and the things I also agree with in this ranking, but we're gonna start out with the top 15 picks and just go through the order of what he has right now. At number 1, of course, he has Alexis Lafreniere. Number 2, he has Tim Stutzle. At number 3, he has Quinton Byfield. At number 4, he has Perfetti. Number 5 is Drysdale. At number 6 is Jack Quinn. At number 7, he has goaltender Yaroslav Askarov. Number 8, Marco Rossi. Number 9, Lucas Raymond. Number 10, Henrik Lapierre. Number 11, Connor Zary. Number 12, Jake Sanderson. Number 13, Alexander Holtz. Number 14, Dylan Holloway. And at number 15, he has Tyson Forster. Now in this top 15, I'm going to start with the things that I agree with, because we're going to start out with the love. At number 1, Alexis Lafreniere, I think we can mostly agree with that. Though if you have somebody else at number 1, I do like your boldness, not gonna lie. But after that, I do agree with where Jamie Drysdale is placed around that number 5 area. I think is very good for him and very deserved. The other thing I agree with is Dylan Holloway at number 14. I think he's definitely underrated. A lot of people have him around that kind of 16 area. I think he should be a top 14 prospect in this draft. But that's pretty much it when it comes to the things I agree with. Now, in terms of a lot of the prospects in the top 15, I agree with some of the prospects being there. Anton Lundell, somehow excluded. But I like a lot of the prospects in the top 15. The problem is where they are placed. And that comes firstly in the Tim Stutzle and Quinton Byfield battle. He has Tim Stutzle at number 2, Byfield at number 3. And I like Tim Stutzle quite a bit. I think he's a top 4 prospect in this draft potentially. But I still have Quinton Byfield at number 2. I think he's just a dominant center that can be a physical beast at the NHL level that Tim Stutzle just can't be. But honestly, having Tim Stutzle number 2 is not a huge thing because the gap between Quinton Byfield and Tim Stutzle, Anton Lundell, and Lucas Raymond is not that big in my opinion, so that's fine. But the rest of some of the rankings is kind of where I disagree. And again, it's fine to disagree with those rankings because Craig Button usually likes to go bold, he usually likes to go crazy, and that's just how it happens. Coming in number 4, Cole Perfetti. And I'm not sure about this one. Now you'll get a big influence of Hlinka Gretzky Cup and World Juniors. And although Cole Perfetti was not in the World Juniors, he was fantastic in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup for Canada. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he is there. Had a great OHL campaign for sure, but I don't think Cole Perfetti is all that NHL ready. I don't think he's better balanced than a lot of the other centers in this draft. Offensively, he has a lot of tools and a lot of potential, but I'm just not as high on him as some other people, and obviously not as high on him as Craig Button. But still, having Cole Perfetti at number 4 is not all that bad. It's not agreeable in my opinion for me, but it's not terrible. Then we go into a pick that I'm really confused by, and once I saw these draft rankings, I was instantly shocked about. At number 6, he has Jack Quinn, and at number 8, he has Marco Rossi. What? I mean, Jack Quinn, yes, is the better goal scorer, but even strength, Marco Rossi has more goals. Jack Quinn has just been more on the power play. It's been more of a power play percentage. And to be fair, he has been a beast on the power play. But it's been more recently. That is a lot of recency bias for Jack Quinn. And Marco Rossi, in my opinion, is one of the best centers in this draft. I think could be a top 5 prospect when it's all said and done. To have him below Jack Quinn, to me, is just kind of insane. Marco Rossi is better in every single way, despite the power play numbers not being as high as Jack Quinn. Defensively, he's so much better than Jack Quinn. And playmaking-wise, it's not even a competition in my opinion. The shot, I will give the edge to Jack Quinn. I think he is a better goal scorer, but Marco Rossi is a much more complete player, and he's the center, which, in my opinion, is what I want to have. Now, I probably wouldn't be as mad with those 2 picks if the number 9 pick wasn't so egregious. At number 9, he has Lucas Raymond. And I know I said that he has a strong Hlinka Gretzky Cup and World Junior influence, but Lucas Raymond was great in both. He was absolutely brilliant, even better than Holtz probably in the World Juniors. That's how good Raymond was, and that's how big of a part he was for Team Sweden. Having him at number 9, I just don't see it. To me, Lucas Raymond is one of the more complete players in this draft. Defensively, he has so much effort in his own end, and offensively has the potential to become an absolute playmaking stud, especially creating chances. He's one of the best in the SHL at such a young age. To me, Lucas Raymond is a slam dunk top 4 prospect in this draft. Him and Stutzle kind of go back and forth right now, but I still have Raymond at number 3. Again, I don't think it's bad because no rankings are truly bad in my opinion, but to me, it is still weird. And going over the next 4 picks, it also, in my opinion, does not get too much better. At number 10, he has Henrik Lafreniere. Now, in terms of potential, Henrik Lafreniere has one of the better ones in this draft. But the guy has suffered multiple concussions already in his QMJHL career, and to me, it's just such a risky bet to make. It is risky, and it could pay off, but to me, even in the QMJHL games he did play this year, he wasn't even all that great. I mean, the playmaking was solid, but he just did not score enough in the games he actually played. He also didn't look all too great either. Then we go into number 11, Connor Zary, and I don't necessarily hate this pick because I am a bigger fan of Zary than some other people, but having him at number 11 to me above some other centers too, I just do not agree with. Same thing with Jake Sanderson, the defenseman, and Jake Sanderson is going very overly rated in my opinion in this draft, but still is a very solid defensive defenseman, I think, in the NHL level, and probably will go around that area, let's be honest. Then you have number 13 in Alexander Holtz, and just like Lucas Raymond, I don't know what Craig Button has against Sweden right now, but it's kind of a personal attack. It's kind of insane. And then we go on to one of the most, it's not surprising, but it's really maddening for me. At number 16, he has Anton Lundell. And I will not stand this Anton Lundell hate any longer, okay? Anton Lundell is one of the best prospects in 2020, and don't you let anybody else tell you otherwise. Obviously, I'm kidding. I'm a really big fan of Anton Lundell. He is my favorite personal prospect in this draft, and having him at number 16, I just can't right now. I just can't. For a guy who was labeled as not having so much skill, he was on pace for Capo Caco-like numbers, and you guys know how much I like Capo Caco. Meanwhile, for Anton Lundell, he is a lot better defensively in my opinion, super sound in that aspect, and in terms of smarts and IQ and getting it done in the right times, Anton Lundell is one of the best out there. The production in Liga speaks for itself, but he is absolutely NHL ready. One of the most NHL ready prospects in this draft, and I think the potential is going very underrated right now. He might not have the top end skill of a Lucas Raymond or an Alexis Lafreniere, but in terms of being a first line center, being a stud in both areas of the ice, I think honestly when it comes to a two-way centers, Anton Lundell might be the best one in this draft, and in terms of both defensive and offensive production, Anton Lundell is a can't miss. If he goes 16th overall, I think will be the steal of the draft. Now I'm going to skip a few picks to number 23, and this is definitely one of the more confusing ones, definitely on the more confusing end. At number 23, Craig Button has Seth Jarvis. Now again, I'm going to disagree with his rankings because I don't really see how you can have Seth Jarvis that low right now. It definitely feeds into the assumption that he just only watched international tournaments because Seth Jarvis obviously wasn't a part of the World Junior team, but Seth Jarvis was one of the best players in this draft, well, maybe even the best WHL player for like a 3-month stretch since 2020 started. He was absolutely dynamic. Offensively, one of the best players, one of the best prospects in this draft since then. And although Seth Jarvis wasn't so much on the radar in the December, November, and October, he's a guy that I think is a top 15 prospect in this draft, deserves that credit, and I don't know how you can watch him in that 3-month stretch and not think he's that high. Even though, again, it is his rankings, to me, not having Seth Jarvis that high is kind of blasphemous. Now, there's a few more picks that I do have a pretty big problem with. Now, it goes into the second round, and it's back-to-back picks. At number 33, he has Lukas Reichel, and at number 34, he has Jan Mysak. Now, I just want to say that he had Jan Mysak at 34 this time around, but he had like Jan Mysak like 70th or something last time. It's only because he came over to North America and the OHL that he finally started recognizing Jan Mysak. Oh, he's good now? He's good now? Crazy, I know, it's surprising. But also, those two picks, in my opinion, kind of go together. Lukas Reichel, to me, is a top 25 prospect, at the very least in this draft, has amazing potential to become an offensive great. And then you have Jan Mysak, who I think is one of the more underrated prospects in this draft. To me, is a top 16 pick, too. To me, he just has so much talent offensively, and the defensive game is very strong, too. Those are two Europeans that do not get enough credit. I don't understand it either, because Lukas Reichel put up such great stats and such great production, but he looked good in Germany too. Trailed off a little bit in the second half, but in terms of his first half production and talent, it was all there. Meanwhile, he has Tim Stutzle at number 2, and although there's a huge gap between the two, Reichel is still very good. So you're kind of putting this German prospect so high, yet this other German prospect who's still very good, very low, which breaks my heart. But there is one last pick that I do have a pretty huge problem with. That coming at number 5, and Noel Gunler. This is blasphemy. This is a travesty, okay? This just does not compute. This cannot happen. Number 45 is Noel Gunler, and to me, Noel Gunler is a top 10 prospect in this draft. Just saying it right there. But he has him at number 45. And again, these are rankings differences. You're going to have a lot of differences. But I cannot see how you have Noel Gunler at 45 outside of the first round. To me, he is at the very least a first round prospect. The skill is insane. And again, if we're just gonna friggin' rob all Swedish-born prospects, can you at least tell us, Craig? My goodness. We have all of Lucas Raymond, Alexander Holtz, and now Noel Gunler. Noel Gunler is friggin' sweet, and even though he is an old prospect in this draft, still has so much talent and so much potential, yet you rob my boy of any consideration. It just breaks my heart. Lukas Reichel, and now friggin' Noel Gunler? Come on, Craig. You're gonna kill me by the end of this. So unlike last year, I'm not gonna call his rankings bad, but to me, they are still weird in some certain areas, and obviously, they are prospect rankings. So I'm going to disagree in some capacity, but that's fine. This is prospect rankings. Everybody has a different opinion, and that's why prospect rankings are so fun to do. But I also want to let you guys know that my top 20 rankings, I'm putting it from 15 to 20 this month for the April 2020 prospect rankings. That'll be coming out on the 2nd. I'll have an April Fool's video on the 1st. I didn't want to release my prospect ranking as April Fool's. What am I, some kind of joke? I'm not going to do that. But wait out and see on the 2nd for my top 20 rankings. That's going to be a big video. Going to put a lot of effort into that one. It'll be a big one. So keep your eyes out. But that'll be it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, all y'all. Of course, with this one, if you just come by, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on Craig Button's rankings, what you agree and disagree with, and also let me know where you think these prospects should go in the 2020 draft. Of course, with all things considered, make sure you share this video. Get these rankings out there, boys. And also click on this card right here to watch all of my hockey prospect content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but goodbye.